Good morning. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. It's still dark out, so the lighting's a little bit odd this morning, but I want to talk to you about running in the dark. I just got back from a run and I realized that I've got some really great equipment and ideas about running in the dark, and I thought I would share them with you. So without any further ado, here we go. First of all, to get motivated to run in the dark, I know that sounds bizarre. What happened was my work schedule changed completely and everything got shifted back about an hour. So suddenly I had an hour less daylight in the afternoon. I had an hour less for preparing a healthy dinner, and something had to move. And so I ended up running earlier rather than later. And the way I accomplished that was first immediately got some lights. And it took a little bit of time to find the right lights, but I settled on, actually Bill got this for me. This is a Zephyr light, and this model is called Nathan. And I could not run in the dark without this. And it's got a wrist strap like this, so it's to hold it in the correct position. Well, funny enough, when you're running, it holds it in the correct position when you're walking, but when you're running, it's kind of not the right position. It shines up into the trees. So I simply switch my hand around and I run with it more like this so that it's pointing in the direction that I'm going. And it's fairly easy to operate. It took me a little bit of time in the beginning to figure it out, but there's light, and a second click turns on a rear light. So as I'm running, there's a light to the rear. There's also another mode that you can get to where everything blinks a lot. I never use that because I'm looking where I'm going. There's also another button that puts on a little shrieker. I don't think it's loud enough to actually call the neighbors to my assistance, but it's there, and occasionally I accidentally turn it on. So that is from Zephyr, and I'll leave a link to that below. And I couldn't run in the dark without this. I have coached running for about 10 years, and I always teach my runners to have very light hands, to not grip hard and use up their energy there. You want your energy going into your legs. And so sometimes I would have them run with potato chips. They needed to do a quarter mile with potato chips in their hands and make it back around the track, but they're still not crushed in their hands. And so I don't tend to grip anything really hard. And so this works out well because I'm not gripping. It's just kind of resting on my hand. So this was the crucial piece of equipment right here. The next thing was to light up in my ankle area. I have this band, and it's from Night Beams, and it has a couple. It doesn't look all that impressive now, but at night it's a lot brighter in the dark. It's got a couple of modes, and this is the most amazing thing. I have had this now for 5 years, and I have not replaced the battery. So I probably just jinxed it, knock on wood, maybe it'll last another 5 years. But this goes around my ankle. It's reflective and it lights up, and so that makes me feel a little bit safer. Now I should back up and tell you about the area where I run, because if I was running in an urban area, I would need probably a lot more equipment. I'd need to wear some sort of a vest that was highly reflective. I'm running in a rural area, and in fact, I chose my home based on, some of you will understand this, based on the running route that's here outside. I can walk out my front door and I've got a 3-mile segment where I don't have to do any repeats. Formerly I lived in town and I did 1-mile circles, and I would vary which street I was on. So I looked at different houses, saw different dogs, and that I wanted somewhere where I could get off the highway. I could have just a residential area where I could run, maybe not a lot of dogs chasing me, and I wanted to be on the water. And so I found a place with all of that. Interestingly enough, because I've run here for about 25 years, that made it so much easier to run at night and run in the morning and run in the dark. What I would suggest, if you're having a little bit of a crush with your schedule and you need to work that run in, a morning run is great. It sets you up for the whole day. You're energized. You've got all this, you're ready to go. There's this little bit pink, of course, for the first part of the morning, but it really starts your day off right to have a run. I usually do a workout and then a run and then shower, and then I've got time to have coffee, breakfast, and get my day situated and head to work. So I I really did not think I'd like running in the dark. I thought it would be awful and impossible, and I thought I'd be injured. And so the light was to make sure that I'm looking where I'm going and that I'm not stumbling over any type of branches that have fallen in the night or anything like that. The other thing that makes it really possible is because I have run here for 25 years, I know every bump in the road, and I think that's a good idea. If you're going to be running in the dark, then pick a route that you've run a lot, that you're very familiar with. You know if there are any big cracks or any big stumbling blocks. I was really worried about twisting an ankle or becoming injured, and I realized that I know this 3-mile loop so well that I wouldn't say I could run it with my eyes closed, but I would say I could definitely run it in the dark with the assistance of a light. Now, running at night, that I'd be a little bit more worried about, believe it or not, snakes, because they come out on a road at night to get warm. But during the morning, there are no snakes. The thing I do have to watch out for, and this is really kind of odd, is armadillos and possums. And armadillos don't see very well. I think they hear pretty well, but there are several times that I have run up to them and I've startled them, and then they're running along with me and they're running right under my feet and I could trip over them. And so that's one of the odd things about running in the morning. One of the other things that I wear is on my shoes, and I do like Avias. I went through a stage where for about probably 10 or 15 years I was wearing Nike Airs, and I think my foot changed a bit and Avias just felt better, and so this is what I run in currently this decade. This is a road ID right here. I'm going to put it fairly close. That has all of my information on it, and it's actually linked up to a database, and if anything were to happen to me and I was not conscious, someone could figure out who I am, figure out who to call, who my emergency contacts are, and any medical information is not right on here, but paramedics know how to access that. And my book club just read a book not all that long ago about a woman who was I think she was a professor at one of the Ivy League schools, and she was suffering either from Alzheimer's or dementia, but she was an avid runner, and she would still run, and she would do her loop, and she would get to the far point and forget where she was and how to get home or where home was. And I thought, well, in a positive light, this would be a good thing, because if I could remember that I have it, somebody maybe could direct me back home if I've lost my mind, which who knows. The other things that I really like, one of the things that Bill got for me right away when I started running was something that I had not invested in, and I use this daytime or even in the dark in the morning, and that is a flip belt. And it's simply first I thought it would be a little bit too hot for running in Florida because it's a little bit thick, but it just means that I can throw it in the wash all the time. It goes around your waist, and it has these pockets in it, and there's even a little lanyard with a clip for a key, so you can leave a key on there permanently. The key's off right now because it just went through the wash. But this has a lot of reflecting on it, and also it has all these pockets. And I'm one of these people who likes to run with my cell phone and listen to music. And because I'm running in a rural environment, there's no one around to hear me but the possums and the armadillos, and so I play my music out loud. I don't use headphones or anything like that. If I ever have to go to that, I'm going to need some advice on which ones to pick that won't fall out when you're running. But I just listen to my music kind of quietly but out loud, and this allows me to do that. The other thing is, if I go for a run while Bill is still here, then I don't turn on any sort of alerts or anything like that. I simply run Runkeeper. But if I go for a run when he's not around, I'm always very thoughtful, and I turn on my Road ID program, which sends an alert to him that I've begun a run. He can track the run and see where in the run I am. And then at the end, when I arrive back home, I turn it off, and he knows that my run is completed and that I'm back home. If I don't turn it off, then it sends an alarm and lets him know that something's gone. Either I have forgotten to turn it off, or I've stopped to talk to the neighbor for too long, or I've become stranded at the other end of my run because it's raining or something like this. So I'm always pretty conscientious. Occasionally I forgot to turn it off. And in the beginning, when I started using the Road ID app, I would set it for exactly the amount of time I planned to run, say 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I was setting the alarm off pretty often because I would stop and talk to a neighbor and forget to turn it off. So now I know to add in an extra 10 minutes, and that gives me a bit of time to remember by the time I pop in the shower and out, oh, I've got turn that off before he gets an alarm. So this flip belt has made it great for me to be able to carry my cell phone. But I have it in a waterproof case, and I'll leave a link for that below. And these are the best cases I have gone through, all different kinds of cases. And mine is the LifeProof Free, not the nude. I don't like the nude because it's clear on the back and it doesn't have the front plate, but I like the Free because it has a front plate and it's solid on the back and kind of grippy, and it's just the best case ever. And I've used several, and it is completely sweat resistant. So this makes it possible for me to carry my cell phone. The case makes it possible for me not to sweat, and I tend to carry the cell phone right in the small of my back so that the music follows me as I go. Some of the other things for fun is I generally pick up some cute running wear. So I've got a Vanderkitten shirt, and I've got some shorts with little reflective bits on them, and I tend to go in a 10-year spurt, and for this 10 years I'll be wearing orange and pink and bright colors like this. The previous decade was all teals and blues, and yes, I treat myself to matching socks, of course. And I'll also tell you that for my hair, what I've found that works best is some really big chunky hair ties like this. These things are just great. They don't break your hair. They're easy to get in, easy to get out. They don't get stuck in your hair. And of course, the other thing I'm wearing is a Fitbit. And I don't actually track my runs on the Fitbit as far as turning it on and off. It automatically calculates my steps. And so I'll have that reports into the program. But I use Runkeeper on my cell phone because I like to actually map the run, and I like to have that database where I can compare which days were faster, which days were slower, and all of that. So of all the things, I would have to say, if you want to start running in the dark, you need a good light. That is the most important thing. For me, the next is a way to carry my cell phone. And don't forget to put your road ID on your shoes in case you lose your mind and get lost. Somebody can find your home. So thanks for watching. I'd like to encourage you to, if your schedule has changed like mine and it seems like a run is impossible, it's not. If you've got an area that you're familiar with, go ahead and get out there in the morning before the sun rises. Get on out there, get your run in, get your day started right. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.